we've made a couple changes. Now, this regulator will fit our 2230s and our 2250s. And you'll see here, this is the old style regulator.
You don't make them that way anymore.
We don't make them this way. We used to have the mounting plate, the adapter ring that went in here, and we completely changed this. So now you just have this piece right here, and then your solenoid slips right in there. Now you still have your internal bleed. So if you want to turn a valve on manually and bypass the controller, you just open this up, and this bleeds water internally inside the regulator. The problem is that you cannot adjust your regulation through the internal bleed.
It has to be with the
It has to be with the controller. You got to turn it on electrically.
Oh, okay.
Now,
to get the
big, right. The big change is that on the old style, we didn't have anything on the bottom of the block. So when you try to change this metering pin, you couldn't. This was press fit in. Now you just flip it over, undo this set nut, and you can pull your metering pin right out. Now there used to be a spring inside here, and we took the spring out.
So there's
This
no
is
spring.
a float. There's a floating metering pin, and it just goes back into the center. So, and this is about the only thing that's changed. Again, when you try to adjust your pressure, you have to turn it on electrically, just like you do with this.
Right.
If you try to do a manual bleed either on this guy or this one here, you totally bypass the pressure regulation portion inside the block. You cannot adjust it. You can sit this thing, your gauge will not move at all. So you have to turn it on electrically on our normally closed valves. 2230s, 2250s, and DW-PRVs. You've got this piece that actually goes on top of the spring, because inside here, this pin has to ride on that. When you tighten it down, you compress the spring. So you have this, you have the spring, and you have your diaphragm. So when you turn this on electrically, what happens is now you pressurize that pin, because right now you can't see it, and it pops it up. So you can adjust based on the pressure, so you get a more accurate reading.
So that spring that used to be in the bottom.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So now we took the spring out because this plunger, you'll get definitely a better reading on it. You've got,
More?
let's say you've got 60 pounds coming in. Let's say we got 100 pounds on the valve, okay? But you want to increase your pressure to, like, say 65 coming out of the valve. To increase your pressure, you go down clockwise. If you want to decrease the pressure, you go counterclockwise. So it just works exactly the way a regular pressure regulator works.
No, it's actually the pressure
It's
regulator.
the play off of the pin, right?
The pressure
Right.
regulator.
What happens is you push down, you're compressing down on that spring, which is compressing down on the diaphragm, and that metering pin, you're pushing down on that. So now we're increasing the amount of pressure going through the orifice, and that's what we're reading. We actually read the downstream pressure in here. So when you put your pressure gauge on this, because that's where your pressure gauge goes on this Schrader valve, you're reading the actual downstream pressure of the valve. So instead of reading it 10 pipe diameters downstream, you're reading it right inside the regulator.
Is the same the pressure